Yeah, let's cover lesson 23, solving equations with fractions. Okay, the first thing I want to show you before we even jump into this is I want to remind you how to solve for x. If you have something attached to x, you have to ask who's attached to x and how. 5 is attached by subtraction. The opposite of subtraction is addition. So we would add 5 to both sides. So x is gone is equal to 1 plus 5, which is 6. Same thing over here. X plus 2 is equal to 3. Who's attached to x and how? 2 is attached by addition. So we're going to subtract 2. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So x is equal to 3 minus 2, which is 1. We're going to use those concepts to come over here and do the same thing, but with fractions. So we've got solving for x minus 5, 6 is equal to 1/3. Well, to get the 5, 6 is attached to x by subtraction, so we're going to need to add 5, 6 to both sides. And when we do that, we get x is equal to, well, we need to simplify this. So 1/3 and 5, 6. Common denominator is going to be 6. So this stays as 5, 6. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. Add the numerators, 2 plus 5 is 7, and the denominator is 6. So x is equal to 7, 6. All right, same thing over here. It's 2/3 is added to x, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to subtract it from both sides. So x is equal to negative 3/5 minus 2/3. I'm going to stack them on top of each other. Negative 3/5 minus 2/3. And simplify. The common denominator is going to be 15. They're both going to be negatives. 5 times 3 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9, so it's negative. 3 times 5 is 15, so negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. The signs are the same, so we have to add them and keep the sign. 9 plus 10 is 19. So there's the answer. So x is equal to negative 19 over 15. Remember, you got to put it x equals to because it is an equation. All right, we're going to solve for x. 3/5. X is equal to 4/10. Who's attached to x and how? Well, 3/5 is attached to x. And so by multiplication, so we're going to have to do the opposite to get rid of it. We have to divide by 3/5. 3/5 divided by 3/5 is going to give us 1. So that's just x is equal to 4/10 divided by 3/5. I'm going to rewrite this to 4/10 divided by 3/5. I think that's better because then we can do the keep, switch, flip. Keep, switch, flip, 4/10 times 5/3. And I can reduce now. I can reduce the 5 and the 10 or the 4 and the 10, either one. 5 and 10 reduce to 2 and 1. And then 4 and 2 reduce to 2 and 1. So now we have 2 times 1, which is 2, and 1 times 3, which is 3. So x equals 2/3. Let's try the next one. Negative 8/9. In fact, pause the video and do this next one yourself. It's the same exact setup. Negative 8/9 times x is equal to 5/18. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 8/9. And x equals 5/18 divided by negative 8/9. We're going to do the keep, switch, flip. So 5/18 times negative 9/8. We can reduce the 9 and the 18 to 1 and 2, and it looks like that's it. So x equals 5 times negative 1, which is negative 5, over 2 times 8, which is 16. Sometimes it's more efficient to first create an equivalent equation that does not contain fractions. To clear all fractions from an equation, you want to multiply both sides of the equation by the least common denominator. Of the fractions that appear in the equation. So in this case, we've got t is equal to 2/7, t minus 2/7 is equal to negative 1/4. So if we were talking about the fractions only, what is the common denominator? Well, let's think about it. The least common denominator between the two of them is going to be 28. The least common denominator between 4 and 7 is going to be 28. So if that's the case, that means I want to multiply every one of these terms by 28. So 28 times t minus 28 times 2/7 equals 28 times negative 1/4. And this is how I show my students in college algebra how to do this as well. I find this is the easiest way to do this. And it's just to get rid of the fractions because nobody wants to deal with fractions. So 28 times t is just 28t. I'm going to keep the negative. 28 divided by 7 becomes 4 times 2. 28 divided by 4 becomes 7 times negative 1. Fractions are gone. We have 28t. I'm just going to simplify. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. I'm going to solve for t. Start by getting rid of the negative 8 by adding 8 to both sides. 28t, gone, is equal to negative 7 plus 8, which is 1. And then divide both sides by 28. And we get t is equal to 1 over 28. Okay. The next one, solve for x. Negative 8/9 x is equal to 5/18. Okay, do the same thing we just did in the last one. Pause the video and go for it and do the same thing. Common denominator, the least common denominator between 9 and 18 is 18. So I'm going to take 18 and multiply it to the left side. Negative 8 over 9x is equal to, again, 18 times 5 over 18. The 18 and the 9 reduce to 2 and 1. So that becomes 2 times negative 8x is equal to, these reduce and just give us 5. 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. Don't forget the x is equal to 5. And finally, dividing both sides by negative 16 to isolate x, and we get x is equal to negative 5/16. Much nicer, much nicer. All right. Last page for this lecture. Solving for x, we've got 2/3 x plus 3/4 is equal to 1/2. Again, let's find the least common denominator between those three fractions. LCD between 3, 4, and 2, or 2, 3, and 4. The least common denominator is what? Well, 2 goes into 2 and 4, 3 does not. So let's look at these. I'm not going to worry about 2. Well, 2 is just going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 3 is going to be 3, 6, 9. 6s are the same, but how about 4? 4, 8, nope. 12. So what about 3s? 12. Okay, so 12 is it. So it's 12. All right, so I'm going to take 12 and multiply it by each of these fractions, or each of these terms. 12 times 2/3 x plus 12 times 3/4 is equal to 12 times 1/2. If it helps you to see this better, this 12 is over 1. Sometimes that helps students to see it a little bit better if you didn't see it initially. So my 12 and my 3 will reduce, which is the idea here. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So this is 4 times 2x. The 12 and the 4 reduce to 3 and 1. So 3 times 3. And the 12 and this 2 reduces to 6. So 6 times 1 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8x. 3 times 3 is 9 is equal to 6. We're going to isolate and solve for x, subtracting 9 from both sides. 8x is equal to, the signs are different, so we're going to subtract and take the sign of the larger number. And then finally, 8's multiplied to x by, 8's attached to x by multiplication. We're going to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division on both sides. Divide both sides by 8. Division. It'd be nice to be able to say that right. And negative 3/8 is equal to x. All right. Pause the video and do this next one yourself, and then come back and see how I did it. Let's find the least common denominator. And we've got 3. So we've got 2, 3, 4 again. So 2, 3, 4, but now we're adding 8. And 8 will not give us a 12. What will 8 give us? 8, 16, 24. It's going to be 24. They all go into 24. So I'm going to take 24 times 2/3 minus 24 times 3x over 4 is equal to 24 times x over 2 minus 24 times 1 over 8. That is an 8. All right, 24 divided by 3 is 8. Don't forget your times 2, that reduces. Minus 24 divided by 4 is 6. So that's gone. And we're left with 3x. 24 divided by 2 is 12 times x. And then 24 divided by 8 is 3. So minus 3 times 1 is 3. Combining, simplifying, 16 minus 18x is equal to 12x minus 3. We need our x's on one side and our constants on the other. So I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. I'm going to bring this 12x over here. 12x. 16's gone. The signs are the same, so we add and keep the sign. So 8, 9, 10, that's 30x. Gone. Signs are the same, so we add and keep the sign. 16 and 3 is 19. Finally, solving for x, we need to divide both sides by negative 30. And x is equal to, the signs negative divided by negative is a positive. 19 over 30 does not reduce any further. 19 is prime. All right, let's do a word problem. Remember, if you're solving a word problem, you want to be able to answer in full sentence, correct units, and correct, well, there's no rounding here, but correct way of showing the work. In the third quarter of a basketball game, announcers informed the crowd that attendance for the game was 12,250. So there were 12,250 people at the basketball game. If this is 2/3 of the capacity, find the full seating capacity for the basketball arena. Well, if they're saying that 2/3 of a number is equal to 12,250. So they're saying that 2/3 of the whole arena is only filling up with 12,250 people. The way I would set this up is to let x equal the full seating capacity. Full seating capacity. All right, I just thinking through this as I did it, but the way I'm kind of went through my head is to let x equal the full seating capacity. And then if we're going to have 12,250 is, and it's 2/3 of the full capacity. All right, and to write that in mathematical sentence form, it's just 12,250 is always means equal, put that in your vocabulary. 2/3 stays the same. Of means multiplication, always. And then the capacity we're saying is x. So 2/3 x is equal to 12,250. This is the first time I've read this actual problem. I've never used this one before. So just checking to make sure I set it up properly. All right. Well, how are we going to do this? If we want to not deal with a fraction, what we've been doing up to this point is just multiplying by what they have as the least common denominator. And I can do the same thing here by just multiplying both sides by 3. Or I could divide both sides by 2/3. totally your choice. I find the students, especially in my college algebra class, like to multiply both sides by 3. It's a lovely day. All right, so that's going to be 3 times 2/3 x is equal to 3 times 12,250. These reduce and just give us 2x is equal to 3 times 12,250 is 36,750. 36,750. Isolating x further, we have to divide both sides by 2, and x is equal to 18,375. But we have to answer in sentence form. Find the full seating capacity for the basketball arena. I'm going to use their words. The full seating capacity is the full seating capacity is 18,375. Last one, the area of a triangle is 20 square inches. The area is 20 square inches. The length of the base, oh, I need to draw a triangle. This is the base, is 2 1/2 inches. We cannot use decimals because we haven't learned decimals yet. Find the height or altitude of the triangle. So we're looking for H. And area equals 20. I have a formula. Area is equal to 1/2 times the base times the height that I can use to find the area. But we know the area and we know the base, so we can use this to find the height. All I need to do is substitute the numbers in. So I'm going to put 20 where area is, 1/2 times the base is 2 1/2. I'm going to put that parentheses, and then times the height. Okay, let's start by getting rid of this mixed number and turn it into an improper fraction. 20 is equal to 1/2 times. I'm going to go around the world. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5 divided by 2 times the height. Okay. We need to multiply before we do anything else. 20 is equal to 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 2 is 4. And this is H. We can get rid of the fraction by multiplying both sides by 4. Does that sound good to everyone? Or we could divide by 5/4. I think multiplying is going to make everyone happier. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. So I'm going to come up here and do that. 4 times 20 is equal to 4 times 5/4 H. Notice I didn't do anything else other than put the 40, 4 times 20, and then 4 times the entire 5/4 H. 4 times 20 is 80. These reduce and give us just 5H. Solving for H, we divide both sides by 5, and we get H is equal to, take 80 divided by 5, and you get 16. Finally, the answer needs to be in sentence form. The height is 16, and then correct units. It's not square inches. The height is measured in inches because remember the area is measured in square inches. So the height is 16 inches. All right, that is it for lecture 23. Y'all have a great week. Let me know what questions you have. Thanks.